Hi guys, Bain here, and today I'm starting a new series on doing an oil painting in just 20 minutes. But I can already picture you asking me, can anyone actually complete a painting in 20 minutes? And what is the point of doing a painting that fast? Well, painting with a time limit is like a total body workout for your art muscles. It sharpens your focus and forces you to make decisions quickly and intuitively. It forces you to only put down the most pertinent information in a way that is decisive and intentional. If all of this sounds a bit intimidating, don't worry, I'll walk you through it, and I plan on making lots of these videos with a variety of subject matter so that you can see what's possible and feel encouraged to try it for yourself. So, as we might have learned from our favorite TV artist Bob Ross, who could finish a piece in just 30 minutes, there are a number of tricks to making a successful painting in a short amount of time, and I'll cover those as I go. But my first tip is going to be that you have to set everything up in your studio in a way that's conducive to working quickly. That means having your palette laid out in a predictable order so that you know exactly which colors you'll be pulling from and where they are on the palette. And this also means knowing in advance which brushes you'll be using for the painting and making sure that you are fully free from interruptions for the full 20 minutes. As for your canvas, you might find that it's easier to work fast if you have a canvas that's already toned. You'll also want to make sure that when you choose your subject, it's something that is definitely paintable in those 20 minutes. For example, I'm more likely to be able to finish a painting of a single flower than an entire bouquet. Finally, be realistic about your skill level and how much you know you can accomplish in that short amount of time, while also being willing to challenge yourself a little. Remember, the point of this exercise is not to have a museum quality masterpiece, but to sharpen your mind and your painting skills so that you can become a better problem solver in your art. While Bob Ross may have been known for slapping on the paint with a palette knife and a house painting brush, I'll show you how to be expedient even if you're still emotionally attached to those tiny brushes. After all, it's okay to work small. The same principles of intention and decision making still apply. So if you're ready to get started, let's go. Okay, so for the photo I've selected, I don't really need as many colors as I have out on my palette, but there were a lot left over from a previous project, so I thought I would just leave them on there. But since I know some of you are going to be curious about what some of these colors are, I'll go ahead and quickly run through them. The first one is Amethyst from Michael Harding. I've got Transparent Oxide Brown and Red from Rembrandt, and then I've got a Permanent Red Light from Rembrandt, and then Chinese Orange from Sennelier. I've got Rembrandt's Cadmium Orange. This one is called Vivid Chartreuse from Utrecht. And then I've got a Cadmium Yellow Light from Sennelier. This is Rosebud from Vasari. And then I've got Warm Light Yellow from Michael Harding. This is actually a Warm Gray from Utrecht and a Warm White also from Utrecht. And lately these two colors have been really invaluable for me. I love having the Warm White, especially on my palette. You can see the difference between that and a traditional titanium white, which is also pretty much always on my palette, and any brand usually will do for that. The blues over here, these are just kind of left over from a previous project. This one is Video Blue from Vasari. This one is called Vivid Turquoise Deep from Utrecht, and then the one over here is a Cobalt Teal from Gamblin. And then I have my regular ultramarine blue, and then for my green I have a Permanent Green Deep, and this one is also from Rembrandt. So lots of Rembrandt colors today, but also a little bit of Utrecht and Vasari and Michael Harding. So quite a variety. I really don't stick to one brand at any given point. But with that being said, that is going to be the palette that I attempt to use for this very quick painting. Sometimes it's nice to have that many colors out on the palette just because you don't have to worry about as much mixing. And for this little exercise, I'm not going to be doing any pre-mixing, so I'm just going to mix everything as I go and try to fit it in those 20 minutes. For my brushes today, I have this Robert Simmons size 8 Signet flat, and I have a couple of Rosemary brushes. These are the Short Flat Series 274, kind of a softer brush for that. And this one is one of her Ivory line, and that's a Filbert size 2. And then I also have a Robert Simmons Signet size 6. And so my plan is, since I have these two larger brushes, this will be great for really loading the paint on, getting the paint on there very fast, and then I can do more of my refining with these two smaller brushes. All right, let's go ahead and start the timer. here we go. Now, one thing I could have done to speed myself up is have my paper towels already pulled off the roll. I did not think to do that, but I will definitely do that for next time. So, thinking about this scene, how can I get this down as quickly and as efficiently as possible, while also making a few little edits along the way to make it hopefully even better than my reference photo. So I want to start by focusing on all that greenery, and I want to imply that gradient towards grayer and lighter tones leading into the foggy background from the very start. So I'm using my biggest brush to really load the paint on. Actually, I have it sort of thinned down with Gamsol, but this will hopefully set up nicely. I'm using transparent oxide brown and ultramarine, and then my green here. I can always load up the brush to get some of those darks in right away. Sort of start designing my piece already. Now, one thing I definitely want to change about this is I want more of that water to show through. And so what I'll probably do is actually bring that all the way off the picture plane in the front here. So that's one change that I'm already planning to make. Next, I might grab from my white. Let's try some of this warm gray too, and kind of add that into our greens. Of course, I might need to mix up some more here as I go, and that's all right. Making that gradient that I talked about. As things get further away, they get grayer, less saturated, and they get lighter. That's one of my favorite things about painting a foggy scene like that. It's just so dramatic, and you can really play up those gradients and make something that just has quite a mood to it. You can tell a story with a lot less information. It's just all about the tones. Okay, so that's starting to come in there. I'm going to move to my smaller Robert Simmons brush here. Again, pulling from that warm gray. I don't know if that's what I want to use. It looks purple when I put it up there, but then again, I might actually want that. However, as I'm thinking about planning ahead for this, we're already 3 minutes in, so I have to plan really fast here. I might actually want to come in with the sky first before I do those trees in the background, because that way I can make sure my lights are completely untainted by other color. And so you probably might not see this so well on camera, but I'm putting some warm white up there for the sky. And I want this edge of the horizon to really stand in contrast to all the cools that are in the foreground. So that edge or that tree line is going to be crucial to setting the mood for this painting. So if I mix up with some yellow, maybe some orange into my white, I can sort of create that tree line and paint that into the wet, warm white of the sky. And by doing this first, I maintain the integrity of my colors. It's a lot easier to mix those greens into this than the other way around. And so that's just a little bit of planning ahead. I think that's going to help with this painting, and hopefully I won't be fighting too much with colors turning muddy. Let's try some of that video blue. And actually I need to clean my brush so that this doesn't turn green on me. I'm looking at the trees just behind that willow that's in the background there. And I want them to look almost pink, I guess, which will look really great against that orange that I set up there. So if I put some of those in for those trees way in the background and paint that up to the oranges, that can create a nice glow. Same with this side, and it's okay if it bumps up to some of the greens that I blocked in there, because when I look at my reference, some of these trees in the background take on some cooler tones as they get further down. And I might just be exaggerating the warms a little bit, which is fine. So a little bit more of that video blue to bring in some of the blues at the bottom here of this tree or set of trees. And I want to carry that down a little further until it meets the grass in the background. Now I'm not painting any of these darker trees quite yet because I want to set up that hazy background behind them first. Time's going so fast. Oh, I've got to really pace myself here and make sure that I'm not spending too much time or fussy detail on this background. So I really got to get it blocked in a little bit faster. I'm already feeling like I'm going too slow. So that being said, let's load up the brush with some more grays, get that tree in there. Simple shapes for trees. If you fuss with them, you are going to waste so much of your precious time getting shapes that you might not even be happy with. So the simpler, the better. I'm seeing that as one large shape, kind of rounded at the top. If I have time, I might add a couple little sky holes into that tree, but that's about all I want to really do with that. And then building some of these trees in front of it. Of course, making sure that I'm still keeping sort of grayed down in my tones, because I don't want these trees to look even remotely as green as all of this stuff in the foreground. Changing up the direction of my brush can help. Moving it in ways that feel slightly unpredictable to yourself as the artist. Maybe you have a certain way that you hold your brush or that you tend to make your brush strokes. And sometimes just by mixing it up or changing the direction of the start of your brush stroke, you can pleasantly surprise yourself with some of the shapes that you'll make. And now I'm not going to be exactly true to the reference photo here. There's a couple of trees there and then one off to the side here, but I want to vary up their sizes just a little bit more. And then this one in the front, I'm going to have to make it a little bit darker, so I'll pull from my ultramarine blue and my transparent brown to make that one just a tad darker, which brings it forward in space for us. All right, and then bringing in some of those darks for where the grass turns down towards the stream. Very hard to maintain a sense of clarity and sharpness with the brush strokes sometimes when you're working this fast. So you have to pull from paint mixtures or make paint mixtures that feel a little bit more extreme than what you think it might need. And that way it'll give you the contrast you need to make something pop a little bit more. I'm going to switch to my smaller, softer brush here because I'm not 100% satisfied with the shapes of these trees yet. I want them to be a little darker at the base. And again, being real general with my shapes, but I feel like my brushwork is a little fussy there, so I want to simplify that while also giving that tree somewhat of a gradient. That's what this painting's going to be about, is the gradient of those tones and how they create that illusion of fog and mist. Okay, if I have time, I'll come back to that. For now, though, I've got to build up some of this light in the water. And then I also want to create a reflection in there to hint at some of the warmth in the background. Let's knock that down. Simplify that some more. So if you don't like your tree shapes, come in from the background and just paint into them. Again, a great way to save time and headache. Keeping in mind, at the forefront of my mind, my goal for this painting, which is, again, all about those tones. So I want to create a sense of that mist hanging over the grass in the background there, while having a few moments of visual interest where maybe I'm cutting into that overall tree shape with some pieces of light. So important just to help guide the eye, give us something to land on. Is this going to be an amazing finished masterpiece? No, but I want it to have an effective emotion, something that we can feel when we look at it. I want it to communicate that. And I think it has a chance, you know? I think there's definitely some potential here. So I'm going to run with it. And this is not being sped up in any way, or I'm not cheating, I can tell you that. What you see is what you get. I'm just working as fast as I possibly can and making these decisions as quickly as I can and trying to make good decisions. All right, let's get real dark here. And I might take the time to clean one of these brushes, or I could just grab a new brush, I suppose, but I think I've got time. That initial brush work from the block in, just saving some of that could look really nice, having that showing through. So I don't want to cover it up entirely. Again, it's all about speed and efficiency, and so if you cover over something that you laid in at the beginning, that's not necessarily doing your painting a favor. If anything, you're cutting into some of that precious time. So trying to plot out the painting process in a way that is taking one direction rather than stepping backwards is always an admirable goal for one of these kind of studies. In other words, plan it like a game of chess. Try to see ahead to what problems you'll have to overcome. And this is so beneficial in the long run for just being an artist and, working on paintings that do take more time or more effort. It's all about those problem-solving skills. All right, let's put a little bit of that chartreuse in there. Why not? Give it a little bit of warmth and vibrance in the greens here. After all, this was a very wet, dewy summer morning. But I want to create, in this middle plane here, a sense of calm and peace where the grass starts to all visually blend together and become harmonized as one shape. If you get too busy with it, not only is that going to take up some of your precious time, but you're going to lose the effect overall. And we want something that can be calm and peaceful, and that's sort of one of the other goals I have for this painting. All right, I got about 3 minutes left. Can do a lot in 3 minutes. One thing I would like to do is give these banks of grass more of a downward plane, turning towards the water. And maybe that means just mixing up my brush strokes a little bit. That's too much the same, these three things, so I'll get rid of that one. Make that one a little smaller. And I want to really blend this all together back here. So you get the feeling that the fog gets heavier the further it goes back in the picture plane. And then this is probably too sharp of an edge relative to all the other edges that are near it, and also just the fact that it's at the edge of the painting. I don't really want that to be too sharp or it's going to take the viewer's eye out of the picture. Oh boy. Less than 2 minutes to go. How am I doing, you guys? Let's pull in some of those yellows over here. Not too similar to the other side, but just enough, hopefully, to mix it up, give it some variety. At this point, I've got the painting covered, all right? There's paint up there. I've got my design locked in. Now I'm just trying to make sure that my brush strokes are beautiful and that overall it's harmonizing, working together visually as one cohesive, harmonious painting. And yes, it can be done in 20 minutes. It takes practice and it takes, the willingness to put out an enormous amount of energy in a very short amount of time, much like a high intensity workout, but it can be done. And I challenge you to do this because it's so much fun. And at the end of the day, it's really going to benefit your practice as a painter. So I challenge you to give this a try. Here we go, just about out of time, 20 more seconds. Just going to soften these edges here in the water. painted a couple little blades of grass. And just like that, time's up. Do I pick at it just a little bit more? Sure. A couple strokes, why not? Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you give it a try for yourself, and I will be back with more videos just like this. So thanks for watching.